Welcome to Chapter 7 of Sherlock Holmes, The Case of the Silent Sovereign, a 12-part Sherlock Holmes mystery. Get comfortable, close your eyes, and let the story unfold. If you missed the previous chapter, please visit to my channel and enjoy the journey of Sherlock Holmes. Chapter 7, A Warning from the Shadows. The revelations from the Baker Street irregulars had cast a long and sinister shadow over our investigation. The image of Lord Harrington, the respected aristocrat, meeting with a rough-hewn sailor in a dockside pub, was a deeply unsettling one. It spoke of a conspiracy that had its tentacles in both the highest and lowest echelons of London society. For the next few days, Holmes was a whirlwind of activity. He spent hours poring over maps of the Thames, studying tide charts, and reading accounts of smuggling operations. He dispatched Wiggins and his crew with a new set of instructions, asking them to learn everything they could about the sailor with the snake and anchor tattoo. I, for my part, found myself in a state of anxious anticipation. The case had taken a dark and dangerous turn, and I could not shake the feeling that we were being watched, that our every move was being monitored by unseen eyes. My fears were confirmed on a cold and foggy evening, 2 days after Wiggins's report. I had been visiting a patient in a distant part of the city and was returning to Baker Street on foot. The fog was unusually thick, a soupy yellow-brown blanket that muffled all sound and reduced visibility to a few feet. The familiar streets were transformed into a strange and menacing landscape, and I found myself quickening my pace, eager for the warmth and safety of our lodgings. It was then that I first became aware of him. He was a shadow among shadows, a presence that I felt more than I saw. At first, I dismissed it as a trick of the fog, a figment of my own overwrought imagination. But as I continued on my way, the feeling grew stronger. I could hear the faint, rhythmic sound of footsteps behind me, keeping pace with my own. I stopped, pretending to look at a shop window, and listened. The footsteps stopped too. I started walking again, and they resumed. There was no doubt about it. I was being followed. My heart began to beat a little faster. I was a former army man, and I was not unacquainted with danger. But there was something about this silent, unseen pursuit that was deeply unnerving. It was a game of cat and mouse, and I was the mouse. I made a series of random turns, ducking down side streets and alleys, hoping to lose my pursuer. But he was relentless. The footsteps were always there, a steady, implacable presence in the fog-bound silence. Finally, I decided to confront him. I turned into a narrow, unlit alley, my hand reaching for the heavy walking stick that I always carried. I flattened myself against a wall and waited, my senses on high alert. A moment later, a figure appeared at the mouth of the alley, a tall, dark silhouette against the faint glow of a distant gas lamp. He paused for a moment, as if sensing the trap, and then he stepped into the darkness. I lunged forward, my walking stick raised. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice sharp and loud. "What do you want?" The man did not flinch. He stood his ground, and as my eyes adjusted to the gloom, I saw that he was not the common thug I had expected. He was well dressed, in a dark tailored coat and a bowler hat. His face was in shadow, but I could see that he was a man of some refinement. "Dr. Watson," he said, his voice calm and cultured. It was a voice that was accustomed to being obeyed. "I mean you no harm." "Then why have you been following me?" I asked, my grip on my walking stick not relaxing. "I have a message for you," he said. "A message for you to deliver to your friend, Mr. Sherlock Holmes." He took a step closer, and I could see his face more clearly now. He was a man in his 40s, with a sharp, intelligent face and cold grey eyes. There was an air of authority about him, an air of quiet, confident power. "Tell Mr. Holmes to cease his inquiries into the death of Lord Alistair Finch," the man said, his voice low and menacing. "Tell him that he is meddling in matters that do not concern him. Matters of state." "Matters of state?" I repeated, my mind reeling. "What are you talking about?" "You do not need to understand, Doctor," the man replied, his voice as cold as the fog that swirled around us. "You only need to deliver the message. Tell Holmes that if he values his life and yours, he will abandon this case immediately." He paused, letting his words sink in. "And to prove that this is not an idle threat, let me share a small piece of information with you. Tell him that the empty crown is a symbol of a power that has no master, a power that will not hesitate to eliminate any obstacle that stands in its way." I stared at him, my blood running cold. The empty crown. It was the symbol that Holmes had found on the beaker in Lord Finch's laboratory. It was a detail that was known only to Holmes, to me, and to the police. And now, to this mysterious stranger, the man had made his point. The threat was credible. He was not just a common criminal. He was part of the conspiracy. He took another step back, melting into the shadows. "You are a sensible man, Doctor Watson," he said, his voice a disembodied whisper in the darkness. "I am sure you will persuade your friend to see reason, for both your sakes." And then, as quickly and as silently as he had appeared, he was gone. I was left alone in the dark alley, my heart pounding in my chest, the man's words echoing in my ears. I rushed back to Baker Street, my mind in a turmoil. The encounter had shaken me to the core. It was one thing to face the dangers of a criminal investigation. It was another thing entirely to be threatened by the shadowy forces of the state. I burst into our rooms, to find Holmes standing by the fireplace, a thoughtful expression on his face. He looked up as I entered, and his keen eyes took in my disheveled appearance and my pale face at a glance. "Watson," he said, his voice calm but concerned. "What has happened?" I recounted the events of the evening, my voice trembling slightly as I spoke. I told him about the pursuit, the confrontation in the alley, the man's cryptic warning. As I spoke, I saw a change come over Holmes. His initial concern was replaced by a look of intense concentration. His eyes grew hard, and a muscle twitched in his jaw. The threat did not frighten him. It angered him. When I had finished my story, he was silent for a long moment. He walked to the window and stared out at the fog-bound street, his hands clasped behind his back. "So, the rats are coming out of their holes," he said, his voice a low, dangerous growl. "They are feeling the pressure. They know that we are getting close to the truth." "But Holmes," I said, my voice filled with a new and urgent concern. "This is not just a criminal matter. This is a matter of state. We are dealing with forces that are far beyond our control. Perhaps we should heed the warning." He turned from the window, and his eyes were blazing with a fire that I had rarely seen before. "Heed the warning, Watson. Abandon the case. Never." He strode across the room and placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. I understand your concern, my dear fellow, and I am grateful for it. But we cannot back down now. To do so would be to admit defeat, to allow the forces of darkness and corruption to triumph. He paused, and his voice softened. They have made a grave error, Watson. They have tried to intimidate us. They have tried to frighten us. And in doing so, they have shown their hand. They have confirmed that we are on the right path. He looked at me, and a grim smile touched his lips. The game has just become a great deal more dangerous, my friend. But it has also become a great deal more interesting. We have struck a nerve. And now we must press our advantage. He turned away, his mind already racing ahead, formulating a new plan of attack. The warning from the shadows had not deterred him. It had galvanized him. It had transformed our investigation from a simple puzzle into a personal crusade. I knew then that there would be no turning back. We had been warned. We had been threatened. But we wouldn't be stopped. We would follow the trail of the empty crown, wherever it might lead us, whatever the cost. The fog of conspiracy was thick around us, but for the first time, I felt a glimmer of hope. The enemy had made a mistake. They had revealed themselves, and in doing so, they had sealed their own fate. For they had underestimated the courage, the tenacity, and the brilliant, formidable mind of Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Thank you for listening to Chapter 7 of Sherlock Holmes, and the Case of the Silent Sovereign. If you enjoyed the mystery and want more stories like this, please subscribe to the channel, give it a like, leave a comment, and share it with fellow mystery lovers. Your support helps keep the stories alive. See you in the next chapter.